What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Maple Leafs Media. As always, I'm your guy, Jake Varco, and today I'm joined by Jory. How are you doing tonight, Jory?
I'm doing pretty well, man. It's another exciting day in Leafland. Erik Kallgren steals the show. Lots and lots to talk about with tonight's game, and I'm sure we'll jump right into it because that was an excellent showing by the Maple Leafs, an excellent bounce back performance.
It was a great bounce back performance after they snapped a two-game losing skid coming off that disappointing loss in the Heritage Classic. We might as well rename this show the Erik Kallgren Show tonight because he absolutely stole the show in this game between the Dallas Stars and the Toronto Maple Leafs. There were some brothers playing in this game that we'll touch on later, but the biggest story in tonight's game, by far, Erik Kallgren getting a shutout in his first NHL start.
No doubt. I mean, what more can you say? He came in, he makes his first career NHL start and goes ahead and blanks the Dallas Stars. It's a really awesome thing to see. You could see after he skated out, he's tapping the chest, showing the love to the fans, and the fans showing the love right back. Really a spectacular debut, start at least, performance for him. And I mean, hopefully a sign of things to come. Some goalie controversy. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of impacts things going forward. But I mean, just embracing the moment. It's really just spectacular to see Kallgren, experience the success like this.
Definitely a goalie controversy. There has been for quite some time now here in Toronto, but uh, I mean, let's just enjoy the night tonight for Erik Kallgren. An amazing performance, a great outing in his first NHL start. 35 save shutout, becoming the second goalie in Maple Leafs franchise history to record a shutout in their first NHL start. The last one to do that was Garrett Sparks on November 30th, 2015, in a 3-0 game against the Edmonton Oilers. So this is definitely a special night for Erik Kallgren. Also, the first Swedish-born goaltender to record a shutout in their first NHL start.
Yeah, great stuff from him. 35 save performance from him. Not everything was super pretty. There was that opportunity in the first period. Rupe Hintz had a great chance to put it in, and Kallgren shut the door with the tight left pad, I believe it was. And, there were a couple bobbled rebounds here and there. There was that great opportunity. Joe Pavelski tipped it on goal, and Kallgren stood steady and made a great glove save. He had his moments. He was up and down at times, but I mean, when it's all said and done, you look at the donut up on the scoreboard, and what more can you really say other than, great job by him and a really spectacular statement performance by the Maple Leafs as a whole, who really controlled the game in a lot of respects.
Yeah, and you know what? The Maple Leafs looked like they were extra motivated tonight. Without Austin Matthews and in front of a goaltender making his first NHL start, you think that has some kind of uh, factor in the Maple Leafs' performance tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think so, right? There's always going to be that adrenaline, right? When you've got, the young guy starting to net, and, you got to kind of play a little tighter, a little more careful. You can't necessarily, be making those crazy stretch passes or those, dangerous blind passes. And of course, no Matthews means that other guys are going to have to step up in his place. And I think in a lot of respects, a lot of guys did. The biggest one, of course, John Tavares, who I think really had a fantastic game. His expected goals percentage up in the 80% range, and a 80% range. Just a really strong showing for the first line, really as a whole.
Yeah, very strong showing from the first line. And we're going to get to the third star of the game because you mentioned him. John Tavares, the captain, stepping up in a big-time moment in the absence of Austin Matthews. He had a goal, a deflection off of a shot from the point, an assist, which was the setup to the setup by Mitch Marner, and a goal scored by Rasmus Sandin. And then in the face-off circle, another percentage for you tonight, Jory, sorry. 69% in the face-off circle. A great performance from John Tavares tonight.
Yeah, he looked real nice there in the face-off dot. But really, I mean, it's really kind of a testament to the role that he plays on this team. There's this talk sometimes of, is he overpaid? Is he really, still a contributor for this team? But don't question for a minute what John Tavares brings to this team, because he is a key part of this roster, construction especially when a guy like Austin Matthews isn't available to play. TSN showed a graphic during the game, and I think it was in 22 games, he's got 23 points where Austin Matthews isn't in the lineup. He steps up, and a lot of the time it's, a case of he's in that kind of second line role and he's not maybe contributing in terms of not able to, have his share of ice time or whatnot. But when called upon, he finds a way to get it done. And I mean, a night like tonight is really a testament to what he brings to this hockey club.
It definitely is. And you know what? He's been doing this for a really long time now. And I've seen so many tweets and so many comments in the comment section about John Tavares isn't producing. John Tavares is overpaid. Well, guess what? John Tavares has 11 points in his last 11 games. He now has 12 seasons out of 13 seasons played with 20 or more goals. And this season, 57 points in 59 games played. Not quite a point per game, but he's playing on the second line. He is performing and he steps up in the big time moments in the absence of Austin Matthews. You can't ask for much more from your captain.
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of it is that the Leafs have a lot of flashy players. I mean, the biggest names, of course, that come to mind. Austin Matthews is about as sparkling a star as it comes, and then of course Mitch Marner has his own, dazzling set of hands, right? And John Tavares is kind of steady on the rudder, not necessarily going to score the flashiest of goals, not necessarily going to have the, craziest of quotes, but you can basically, pencil him in for a 75-point season. You can basically pencil him in for 20 goals. And that's really good production for a really good player, right? Is it, mega star kind of contributions? Maybe not that, not everyone is capable of those kind of numbers, but John Tavares is almost underrated in terms of what he brings to this team, just in terms of the pure value and the pure importance of his role on the hockey club.
Yeah, he is. And don't quote me on this, but I believe at the beginning of the season, the NHL Network released a list of the top 20 centers in the NHL, and John Tavares wasn't on that list. So, I mean, you're right. He is someone that's undervalued in the sense that not enough people give him the recognition he deserves. Maybe he's not that megastar like Austin Matthews, but he's in that next tier below.
Yeah, exactly. And no one's in the tier that Austin Matthews is. There's a reason he's probably going to end up winning the MVP this year, the Hart Memorial Trophy. But John Tavares is so important to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and had they gone to the Olympics, he probably would have been a huge part of Team Canada's team. It's really understated, or rather can't be understated enough, how important John Tavares is as just a contributor. And tonight is just such a prime example of what he brings.
Definitely a great performance from John Tavares. And we're going to get to the next three stars of the game. Second star of tonight's game, TSN had it different. TSN had John Tavares as the second star, but I feel as if Rasmus Sandin is deserving of the second star of this game. He had some nice interceptions on passes, and he also joined up on the rush. Great read by the defenseman to score that goal there.
Yeah, that was a really spectacular goal. I tweeted it out during the game. By the way, you can follow me on Twitter, as you can see, at JorianS_. That was a really, really spectacular goal, in my opinion. I don't think he scored any goals quite like that. The smarts and the wherewithal to pinch up, just as you mentioned, to get in there, to read the play well, and then the nice pivot move and the backhand to put it past Ottinger, who himself looks pretty good for a lot of the game. 3 goals against isn't ideal, but I mean, it's hard to beat, when the other guy's pitching a shutout. But it was a really nice goal. I thought he really looked poised out there. He made some really smart plays with the puck in his own zone as well, breaking the puck out of the net, out of the Maple Leaf zone. I think he's really a huge contributor for this team. He's also, in some respects, maybe underrated.
He is. He is a very young emerging talent, and that goal that he scored tonight, it was outstanding to watch. I mean, the patience that he had on that play, it was a really fast-moving play, but the patience he had to hold that puck and wait until the goaltender made his move, fantastic. And Jake Ottinger, yeah, he's been a solid goaltender all season long. I picked him up in fantasy recently because he really is. He stepped up his performance as of late. I sat him tonight, thankfully, but overall, Rasmus Sandin definitely deserving that second star.
That's the kind of analysis you can only get here, at least media, that Jake Ottinger just not the guy tonight. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's really good, but Jake, or rather Rasmus Sandin, just really impressive, right? I really think that he's he's really got a future on this team when it comes to, being a really significant part of the top four and down the road, maybe even the top pair, right? He's not Morgan Riley. He's not going to be putting up 60, 70 points in a season. He's not Brett Burns. He's not one of these, elite offensive put the puck in the net guys. But when it comes to driving the play in the right direction, there's not a lot of guys on the Maple Leafs that on the back end do it as well as him. To me, he's better than a guy like even like a TJ Brody, who himself is very strong, but doesn't offensively move the puck as well as Rasmus Sandin. I'd certainly put him a tier above a Justin Hall, who himself has bounced back to a degree, but has been the whipping boy for much of the season. Jake Muzzin has had his ups and downs this year, now obviously injured, but he's kind of had a bit of a down year, and Sandin's really stepped up in his place. And I think Liljegren as well, another young guy for the Leafs that has a lot of exciting potential, but Rasmus Sandin just a really kind of a different level, I think, especially lately.
Definitely on a different level than a lot of those guys you just mentioned. Rasmus Sandin has a bright future in the National Hockey League, and hopefully for Maple Leafs fans, that future is in Toronto. His contract's set to expire at the end of the season, and Kyle Dubas needs to find a way to re-sign him. I feel as if he's going to play a pivotal role on this team going forward.
Yeah, undoubtedly a pivotal part of the Maple Leafs future, and thankfully so. And I think we talked about it the last time I was on, that there were some questions about the Maple Leafs defense and the future of their defense. I believe it was Carlo Koliakovo that had mentioned something about, what does the future of the Maple Leafs defense look like? You're looking at it right here. Rasmus Sandin is a huge part of the Maple Leafs plans moving forward, and he's gonna continue to take steps. He's still pretty fresh, drafted in 2018, but I mean, even right now, a really, really big part of the Maple Leafs blue line and a really important part of the Maple Leafs blue line, in my opinion, he should probably never be scratched again.
Probably not. I think you're right. I think you're right, unless something drastic happens with his performance. Like last season, we saw some flashes from Rasmus Sandin, but this year we've seen massive steps in his development, and we've seen him play an integral role in the Toronto Maple Leafs top four.
Yeah, absolutely. And last year was almost a lost season for him. Of course, the AHL wasn't really operating at full capacity, and the taxi squad, he was up and down and up and down. So for him to really solidify his spot on this team and really make his mark, it's what it's really all worth, right? I mean, a night like tonight is really kind of, it's early, but really a career defining night. And not to say that this is, the best night of his career, right? But it just shows that the development is there. He's taking the steps and he looks the part of that top four NHL defenseman.
He definitely does look the part, and you know who else looked the part tonight? It's our first star of the game. It's Erik Kallgren making 35 saves in his first career NHL start, a shutout for the 25-year-old Swedish goaltender. I mean, we can talk about this all night. There's not enough we can say to talk about the performance from this young goaltender.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to really contextualize the state of the Maple Leafs goaltending heading into this one, right? Of course, you've got Mrazek who's reeling, and Kallgren has to come in his relief in the Arizona game, and then the Buffalo game rolls around, and that obviously doesn't go according to plan. So the Leafs really are desperate for anybody to really stop the puck, right? And a game like tonight, Erik Kallgren just goes above and beyond. You need maybe, a 2 goals against, or worst case scenario, 3 goals against, and ideally you're able to overcome that, right? And I don't think certainly nobody had this kind of in the cards for Kallgren, but you're just kind of hoping, he goes out there and he gives you a chance to win, right? And he did that and so much more. He was just phenomenal tonight, just holding the fort and good on the Maple Leafs as well, making his life relatively easy as well. There were some flurries here and there, and he stood tall. And again, as I mentioned, he had his moments where the rebound control wasn't as sharp, but the Leafs did a good job in front of him, and everything that got through, he did a great job staying steady. And the Leafs, in the end, get the 2 points and a really fantastic story and a great shutout for him.
And you know what? This is a big 2 points for the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have been struggling as of late. They snap a 2 game losing streak, and not 2 games to write home about either. Uh, an upsetting loss at the Heritage Classic the other day. That was a game I was at, and let me tell you, I mean, it got ugly in the third period. But Erik Kallgren is the story of the night, and honestly, just thinking, just try to put yourself in that situation. It's really hard to, obviously. Not many people are blessed enough to actually perform as a goaltender in the National Hockey League. But just imagine this is something you've been working your entire life to get to. You just need to clear your head before the game, get out there on the ice in the hockey mecca, Toronto, and you go out there and post a goose egg for your team. 35 saves. His rebound control, it wasn't the best at times, but you know what? I tell you this. It was a lot better than the rebound control I've been seeing from Peter Mrazek.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what, Peter Mrazek, we could kind of get into him maybe, but to me, tonight's tonight's about really highlighting the performance of Shalgren and really appreciating what he was able to accomplish. This is not something you see every day. What was it, the fourth time in Maple Leafs history, I believe, that they've had a shutout in their NHL debut as a starter. The last one, of course, that oh so memorable interview with Garrett Sparks back in 2015, where he's crying, and then tonight you see Erik Kallgren comes out, and you can see him welling up, and it was so heartwarming, really. He's 25 years old. He's drafted back in 2015 by the Arizona Coyotes, plays a handful of games in the ECHL, but for the most part spends his career over in Sweden, and then signs with the Maple Leafs, and now finds himself in the starter spotlight in, as you mentioned, the hockey mecca of the world, right? It doesn't get any bigger than this. And he really showed a lot of resilience, and he didn't wilt.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that, oh, he's a starting goaltender the rest of the season, but I will say that he earned the start Thursday night against the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Do you have any objections to that?
No, it's hard to have an objection to that, right? I mean, listen, if Mrazek was coming in and he was up and down and up and down, but even if he was like a 900 or a 905, goaltender, right? I could understand it, but he's just been so, I hate to say it, but so really bad for the Maple Leafs when he's been tasked with starting, that you can't really trust him unless Shalgren shows you something that you can't trust him, right? Shalgren, to me, has been the better of the two over the last week and so stretch, and as a result, I just don't think that you can go to Mrazek until Shalgren shows you that he isn't capable. But after a night like tonight, how could you possibly go back when just everything from the story of Shalgren's success to the excitement, and I'm sure the whole team's rooting for him, right? You have to go back to Erik Kallgren when they play the Carolina Hurricanes on Thursday.
Absolutely, they have to go back to Erik Kallgren. And I mean, Wolf Tank says, just remember though, it is still just one game. I wouldn't say we have a new goalie. And I would agree, Wolf Tank. We're just saying that he's going to get the start Thursday. We'll reevaluate afterwards. And you know what? There's also another goaltender that's currently injured, Jack Campbell. So when he gets back into the mix for the Maple Leafs, things could change. There could be some moving pieces up and down in the minors or through trade. You never know what's going to happen. But right now, Thursday, it's Shalgren's net.
Absolutely. And I think also something to really kind of keep in mind and is, even while we don't necessarily, quote, have a goalie, I think it's still important to recognize that the goaltending position itself is so unpredictable and such voodoo, for lack of another term, that it wouldn't even be that shocking if Shalgren comes in and was really great. I recall back in 2011, it was James Reimer comes up, or perhaps it was 2012. he comes up and he had played in the ECHL that season, and he almost dragged the Maple Leafs to a playoff spot. Obviously, they fell short that season, but he came in and he was really spectacular in his debut. And Kallgren obviously isn't necessarily going to have that kind of storybook start, but it's happened before. And if you're Erik Kallgren, your attitude is nothing if not, why not? Why not me? It's got to be that you're in the NHL, you're in the big show, and you just shut out the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, that's a good attitude for Erik Kallgren to have. I hope that is the attitude he has after tonight's win. I'm sure this is a great night for him. He's going to soak it all in, talk to some family, and enjoy this night. But just another example of a goaltender that you're talking about coming up and making some noise when it wasn't really expected on a different scale because this goalie had actually played in the National Hockey League before, but this is last season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jack Campbell, not quite a rookie or anything like that, but he stepped up, won 11 straight games to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he took over as the Maple Leafs starting goaltender. So this isn't something that the Maple Leafs are new to, and we'll see how this goaltending situation plays out.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be such a fascinating storyline to follow through, at least until Jack Campbell's back. And, when Campbell's back, you would think that he probably gets another shot at taking back the starter's net. But for now, it's anybody's game. It's jump ball, and Erik Kallgren looks like he just won the tip. We'll see what happens from here.
I like that analogy, but you just got to go with the hot hand here.
Absolutely.
And if you haven't already, please make sure you smash the like button, hit the notification bell down below to be notified every time new content's being released on Maple Leafs Media. This show is also streaming on Twitter, so if you're watching this, don't be afraid to retweet this. And if you're on Facebook, share this video, tell a friend to tell a friend. It all helps out Maple Leafs Media in a big way.
Absolutely.
Another fascinating milestone that was hit tonight was behind the bench from Sheldon Keefe. He becomes the fastest coach in franchise history to record 100 wins. How do you feel about this stat?
Yeah, it speaks to the success that the Maple Leafs have had, at least in the regular season, under Sheldon Keefe. He's come in, he's instituted a certain style of play, a real departure from his predecessor Mike Babcock, and to be the fastest Maple Leafs coach to 100 wins. You think about the long and storied history of the team, 100 plus years. To be that guy, to be the fastest to 100 wins, is really impressive.
Yeah, there's a lot of great coaches that have coached for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is just an amazing accomplishment for Sheldon Keefe. Obviously, he's got a really skilled, star-studded lineup, but that doesn't take away from the accomplishment, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, you could even look at, his predecessor, Mike Babcock. I mean, right before he joined or Sheldon took over as head coach, Babcock was struggling to get the most out of this lineup, right? And there was talk about, the team had tuned him out, and there were questions about how he was kind of using his players in terms of deployment. I recall him, using Tyson Barrie as a shutdown defenseman, which was obviously never going to work. But to me, Keefe has come in. He's coming with a really solid plan. He's in some ways, I'd even say, modernized the Maple Leaf systems, where they're amongst the league leaders in expected goals percentage this season. He funnels pucks towards the slot, and he ensures that his players are putting high danger shots on the net. And these 100 wins, they haven't all been pretty. They haven't all been easy, as easy as tonight, if you will. But it's still a remarkable accomplishment. 100 wins at the NHL level, as it is, right, is an accomplishment, I think, in and of itself.
Absolutely, it is. And Jory, by any chance, did you watch the All or Nothing Amazon series?
I actually did not, but admittedly, there was a little bit of frustration from the last season, so it was still a little fresh. It was a little bit difficult, but of course, all the clips and the Sheldon Keefe moment from that comes to mind is his discussion with Jimmy Vesey, where he really kind of was telling him, you got to kind of bring it. And it was just kind of a testament to the type of atmosphere, the type of culture that Sheldon Keefe wants from his players.
Yeah, I agree. That was actually really hard to watch. It took me a little while to get over that and watch that as well. But when I did watch that, there's a key takeaway that I had from that, and that was Sheldon Keefe. He often is talked about in media and in comment sections, Twitter. He's talked about as a coach that I've seen comments that say, "Oh, he's a soft coach." And you know what? The way I would put it is he's a player's coach, but he will be hard on you. He will let you know when you're not performing, and that's exactly what these players need at the NHL level. They're humans too. They need to be told by someone above them what they need to be doing.
Absolutely, and coaching an NHL team is I would imagine an unfathomably difficult task, just based on you've got to juggle personalities and you've got to make sure that deployment needs to be on point, and sometimes there's things that are just out of your control. And for Keefe to be able to get to this 101 milestone, as I said, really speaks to his ability to execute and to have his team execute. There's ups, there's downs, just like any other coach, but being the fastest to 100 wins in Maple Leafs history is really an accomplishment that shouldn't be overlooked, because it's a really significant accomplishment for a team with the history of the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, a history of over 100 years. First coach to 100 wins. That's a very impressive statistic. Congratulations to Sheldon Keefe, as Wolf Tank says here.
No
And
doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
so this was a game of storylines, really. You have Sheldon Keefe with the milestone. You have John Tavares stepping up in the absence of Austin Matthews. You have Erik Kallgren, first NHL start, first career shutout. And then there's another storyline that we have to touch on here. There were two brothers playing in this game, Nick and Jason Robertson. So I'm going to share this post from the Maple Leafs Instagram. Nice little family portrait before the game. And Nick Robertson and the Toronto Maple Leafs pull away with the win and the bragging rights in this one.
Yeah, and both the parents as well in attendance. The broadcast made sure to show them. Mr. Robertson with that epic beard. I don't know if you caught it, but that thing looked pretty impressive. But a really fantastic moment for that family, and really exciting. I'm sure for both of the Robertsons' parents. Both of those guys have faced adversity to get here. Jason Robertson, a second round pick himself, he was doubted at times in terms of how complete his play was back in junior. Of course, he ends up with the Niagara Ice Dogs and really lights it up, and really just kind of skyrockets in terms of his stock just from there. And eventually, last season has a big breakout, and then this year brings his game to another level. He's about to cash in pretty nicely on that expiring deal. And Nick Robertson, I'm sure most people here are familiar with his adversity, struggling through injuries, and of course the pandemic makes things, difficult for him in terms of his development. So it's really fantastic to see him be able to to have this opportunity to play against his brother.
Yeah, and you know what? Jason Robertson is an emerging star in the National Hockey League. Uh, he's been a star for my fantasy hockey team this season. A great draft pick by me. I'll give my a little pat on the shoulder for that one. But Nick Robertson, he's got to follow in his older brother's footsteps. He's definitely faced some adversity with injuries. And I'd say another thing he's faced adversity with is being an undersized player in the National Hockey League. And I believe that's something he can overcome. He's got a wicked shot. He's a great skater. He has a lot of potential in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and a night like tonight, I think, really highlights kind of both the upside, and on the same kind of flip side of the coin, kind of the downside with Nick Robertson. I recall he was out there on the second power play unit for the Maple Leafs, and he was doing some really spectacular, playmaking. He's on his edges. He was carrying the puck really well. He took a couple of shots. He had his opportunities, but then you kind of look at the bigger picture, and you can kind of see that his line was getting hemmed in a lot, and defensively there may be some shortcomings. He was amongst the lowest or the weakest players on the Maple Leafs tonight by expected goals for percentage. Wasn't exactly the strongest of defensive showings for anyone really on his line. I thought Nylander didn't have his strongest game, at times looked a little bit disengaged, which, as someone that's a really big fan of William Nylander, it's a little bit concerning for me when he does get into those kind of ruts, and you'd like him to elevate his game in the same way that his teammates do. But back to Robertson, I think it's really kind of going to be uh, a test of will. He's gonna have to bulk up. He got pushed off the puck a few times tonight, and he's going to have to find a way to make things happen despite his size. I think he's more than capable of that. He's done it at other levels. He did it at the AHL last year, and he's only played 7 or 8 games for the Maple Leafs this year. He's very much still raw and a project for them, but he's going to have to find a way to make his presence known on the ice, whether that's with his shot, which is lethal by all accounts, and we even saw it the other day, or maybe with his playmaking, or he'll have to do something because a night like tonight, not his strongest showing necessarily.
Yeah, he definitely has to find his niche in the National Hockey League, and that will come with time. Chris here says once Robertson puts more weight on, he's going to be a top six forward. I'm not going to say yes for sure, but he definitely has the potential to become a top six forward in the National Hockey League for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And bulking up would definitely go a long way for him.
Absolutely. And it's not out of the question, right? I think William Nylander came into the league at around 165, and he's hovering in that 180, 185 range now. So he bulked up from when he was drafted in 2014. Mitch Marner, of course, similarly, although not to the same extent. Even a lot of people don't recall, but Austin Matthews, he's kind of bulked up to a degree as well, and maybe not to the same, exceptional degree that someone like a Nylander or someone like a Robertson will need to do. But all these guys are coming in, and they're still getting used to that kind of pro lifestyle, and especially with Robertson having these injuries and bumps and bruises in his development cycle, he's going to be a little bit maybe behind there. He's a late birthday as it is, so he's going to take some time, but it's absolutely not out of the question that he could be a significant top six contributor as soon as next season.
Definitely. The future can be bright for Nick Robertson. He's just got to put in the work and grow into his body. We'll see how the future plays out for him. The Toronto Maple Leafs are set to take on the Carolina Hurricanes at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Thursday. It's a Toronto St. Pat's jersey, and the record in those jerseys isn't very good, but we'll see if the Maple Leafs can change that around with what I expect will be Erik Kallgren in net.
Yeah, and it's a pretty safe assumption. You've got to run Shalgren, I think, at least until he proves otherwise. After a night like tonight, capture that magic and try to run with it, right? That's the name of the game with any goalie. And if Shalgren's got the mojo, then just let him roll.
Yeah, and I feel actually if the Toronto Maple Leafs were to start Peter Mrazek in favor of Kallgren Thursday after the performance Kallgren had tonight, that might actually kill that mojo you're talking about and really hurt his confidence. So you want to go back to the hot hand.
Yeah, I think momentum is somewhat understated in a lot of sports, and there's been lots of kind of number crunching and studies kind of done about is momentum a thing? Is momentum not a thing? And it's tough to really say because it's a little bit touch and feel, right? But if you're Erik Kallgren, you are feeling it. It is just your night, and you just had the night of your life, sort of thing, right? So to go back to Mrazek to me would just be kind of silly, just because of how good Kallgren was tonight, right? It's just kind of a matter of even beyond respecting the player or giving him a shot, sort of thing. You won the game. The goal here is to pick up those W's, and if that's what Kallgren did, then you got to give him another look and see if he can't string a couple together.
Definitely. And you know what, Jory? I'm a big believer in momentum. And I believe we saw momentum in last year's playoff series swing heavily into the direction of the Montreal Canadiens. But let's not get back into that conversation. It's a conversation for another time, or we can just bury it in the past and never look back.
I think that second option sounds pretty good, as much as Montreal Canadiens fans like to bring it up.
All right, let's do that. We'll never talk about that series again. And before we head off here, I didn't get a chance to do a post-game show after the Heritage Classic game on Sunday. Obviously, Austin Matthews faced a suspension after cross-checking Rasmus Dahlin with retaliation in the upper body, close in the neck, head area. So Austin Matthews to miss 2 games due to suspension. He served the first game of his suspension tonight. Jory, I want to ask you your opinion. Was the suspension of 2 games warranted for Austin Matthews?
Yeah, you know what? It's not to cop out, but it's a tough question because it's just because the Department of Player Safety is really a bit of a crapshoot with this kind of stuff, right? They sometimes, come down hard and I think rightfully so, and then sometimes they'll just let a guy off with a fine. I think the last guy to be suspended for a cross check was former Toronto Maple Leaf Nazem Kadri. I believe in that playoff series against the Boston Bruins when he got dinged for cross checking Jake DeBrusk. It's a bit of a kind of a question mark when it comes to what is a suspension and what isn't a suspension. Now, was this a suspendable play? Probably. You don't want guys, cross checking, up near the head or the neck area, right? But with that said, Austin Matthews, I've got to imagine, is frustrated because he's not, being respected by the referees. He's not getting the calls. And a play like that, to me, Darren Dreger put it really well on the broadcast tonight. It's him showing some snarl. It's him showing that he's done taking it from other guys. And if the refs aren't going to if the refs aren't going to do something about it, then he's going to take it into his own hands. Now, would you like him to ideally not get suspended for 2 games? Of course, but it's hard to really blame him. And I think it kind of puts the league on notice that you can't mess with Austin Matthews because he will push back.
Yeah, see, it's a really tricky situation when it comes to Austin Matthews, your star forward. You don't want him taking stuff like that. You don't want him to be getting pushed around by anybody, whether it's Rasmus Dahlin or it's, I don't know, Zdeno Chara. You don't want him to get pushed around. You like seeing him stand up for himself. You don't want him to drop the gloves because he has a wrist injury history. And just you don't want your star player to be in that situation. But I feel this 2 game suspension was warranted. I understand what you're saying about the NHL Department of Player Safety. It's been a really gray area, a lot of question marks surrounding their tactics when it comes to actually handing down suspensions and fines. But I feel like that's just a play that you can't do. I like that he stands up for himself, but the manner that he did it, not the best way to do it. Uh, but that's really all I have to say about this situation.
Yeah, and it's obviously unfortunate that he's going to miss these games in a season that has really been historic for him. Fortunately, 50 goals kind of seems like a foregone conclusion for him. He'll be the first Maple Leaf to do so since I believe Dave Andrechuk. So a really kind of huge milestone in terms of Maple Leafs lore, but he's chasing 60. And not a lot of guys hit 60 in today's NHL, and missing these 2 games could be huge, could be really significant. So it's going to be interesting if these ultimately play a factor. And if you're the NHL, if you're desperately trying to market your game and you're trying to put yourself kind of in the same conversation as the NBA or the NFL, a 60-goal season is pretty unique and it's going to get people talking. So to have your superstar, face of the league, if we're being honest, get suspended like this it's it leaves some questions to be answered.
Yeah, it's definitely not an ideal situation. And uh, the way I'm looking at this for the Toronto Maple Leafs is this is an opportunity for them to really gain some momentum. If you believe in it, I believe in it. This is an opportunity for them to gain some momentum going forward. Uh, you have your superstar player out. If you can win some games without him in the lineup, just imagine what it can be like when he gets back into the lineup, bolstering your team. I think that it could end up being a blessing in disguise for the Maple Leafs, but for Austin Matthews, obviously it's unfortunate as it could derail him from that 60-game season.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a real testament to the depth that the Maple Leafs have. I believe Frank mentioned in the comments about the replacement Clifford coming in for Wayne Simmons. It's a testament to the depth that the Maple Leafs have, that they're able to have these guys rotate in and out and come in and be contributors, right? And Austin Matthews is a key piece. You're not gonna rotate in and have someone replace Austin Matthews' production, but nevertheless, right? It's still a good test and one that the Leafs look like they passed with flying colors.
Yep, they passed the first test, and they'll have another one come Thursday in the St. Pat's game between the Toronto Maple Leafs and Carolina Hurricanes. That's a game I will be at, so look out for a recap video on this channel. As always, I'm Jake Varco. I'm going to give Jory the opportunity to give the closing words while I get the links to our Twitter accounts, and I'm going to drop those in the comments section. So thank you, everyone, for watching.
Yeah, and of course, this Carolina game is going to be really important. I think it's going to be another one of those Erik Kallgren shows. We'll see how he responds. I think everybody hopes he responds well. It's such an enticing story, and this could be the start of something special for the Maple Leafs. It'd be really fun if it was.
It certainly will be. It will certainly be a fun game to watch Thursday against the Carolina Hurricanes. It's always fun when the two teams meet up, two star-studded lineups. So I dropped the Twitter link to my account in the comment section, and I just dropped Joy's as well. We're both sports journalists getting into the industry, so we'd both appreciate the follow. Thank you, everyone, for watching tonight's post-game show. As always, I'm Jake Farco.